Following the taping of this program, David Von Erich went on a wrestling tour of Japan. Last Friday, following a match in Tokyo, David Von Erich died. He was 25 years old. On behalf of World Class Championship Wrestling and the many thousands of fans around the country, we send our sincerest condolences to the family of David Von Erich.
Welcome to episode number 165 of Something Else. Feast your ear holes on this week's episode as we take a look at Mid-South Wrestling and World Class Championship Wrestling from February 11th, 1984. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the Patrick Mahomes' ugly, annoying wife to my Taylor Swift. It's Trey. Trey, how the fuck are you today?
Why do I have to be ugly and annoying? Is it because you have the lipstick?
Also because I'm a huge Swiftie, so
Okay, well,
I figured with the timing I had to make a football reference.
I don't have
Um,
anything against T Swift.
and it's funny because when I wrote that out, I forgot her name. Her name is Britney Mahomes. I don't think she's necessarily ugly, but like she's really annoying. Like the level of annoying that you're like, wow, is a professional football player, is that the best that he could get?
Okay, so I just finished recording the Oh My God cast right before we sat down to record this, so I have to
Mhm.
ask, is she more or less annoying than Matty in the House?
You finally got to Maddie?
I don't think I have ever hated a character on a show more.
Oh, oh.
Ah, the worst.
Um, I'm gonna say less annoying just because y- no one is doing a podcast talking about the weekly exploits of Britney Mahomes or the weekly
There
exploits
was
of a TV show that involves Britney Mahomes.
there was a segment where Matty in the House interviewed Jason, the sexiest man alive. It was
Oh my God.
it was the debut of the Jason character. Like,
Oh my God.
he'd been doing jobs on WWF TV. Now he's in ECW starting this gimmick. And I have never seen a meeting of two more hateable people.
I I honestly I don't know if I saw the one that you're thinking of or that you're talking about, but I've seen segments of those two together, and that's the segment. Like when I was talking to you about Maddie in the House like a month or so ago, that was what I was thinking of when I'm like, oh my God, you don't know what's yet to come.
Was not prepared for Matty in the House.
Ah, no.
I did like I did like when Public Enemy tried to steal his car.
Oh Lord. I don't think Maddie in the House lasts long. I think I honestly don't know for sure, but I think he's only there till the end of '93. But
That's a relief.
yes. Oh my God. Who did okay, you guys, I'm assuming y'all did some research or whatnot. Who is that man?
I don't know. I did not do any research on Matty in the House. I'm sorry.
God damn it. So uh, this is going to be a morbid episode for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that you and I will are going to have way too much fun with death. Um, but David Von Erich is dead. Um, as we've been uh, as we've been promoting now for several weeks, David Von Erich has passed away,
Mhm.
and this week's show and next week's show was taped about 2 weeks ago, and David Von
Mhm.
Erich is all over both shows.
Did I,
And
have you watched next week?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Have
Did
you?
they? No, I haven't. Did they air the UN title match with David and Michael Hayes?
I don't think so. No, at least I don't remember one.
Yeah. So they I don't remember where if he had Hayes had gone to Japan or if Tenryu had come behind. I think Hayes might have went on a Japan tour. Michael Hayes beat Genichiro Tenryu for the NWA United National Heavyweight title, which is the title that it's still today a part of the Triple Crown. Uh, David beat Hayes for the title on the tape on this taping, but it didn't air this week and it didn't air, so I guess it didn't air. But that was he was going to Japan to lose the title back to Tenryu.
Oh, wonderful. But yeah. So David Von Erich passed away. Um I believe the memorial shows that everyone remembers with the creepy Fritz promo, that's going to be in 2 weeks. But yeah, the show ended with the clip I played at the beginning, that 30 seconds or whatever, um, with what's his name, Bill Mercer, standing in front of like a dark gray screen, and it's like I knew it was happening, I knew it was coming, but like when it happened, I still got a chill down my spine.
Yeah,
It's like,
that was a sharp left turn. We go from a big Von Erichs and Freebirds brawl to that.
the only thing is, I'd have to reread my notes. I don't think they mentioned it at all next week. Like obviously there's pre-tape, so they didn't know anything. But I don't remember them adding anything to next week's show, like even a
Well,
crawler at the bottom of the screen or anything. So
everybody knew by then.
yeah. Um, Apparently, this was when Dave Meltzer lived in Dallas or outside of
Mm.
Dallas or whatever,
Wichita
and
Falls, I think.
yeah, it it was not a big deal in the news until like days afterwards because reporters like apparently went to the mall and saw like all the teenage girls crying and everyone being mopey and figured it was a much bigger story than they thought it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but so this is gonna bring our two discussions so far full circle. But so we're obviously still a year away from Lance Von Erich. But part of the reason they brought in Lance Von Erich was not just David dying, but Mike is going to go into toxic shock syndrome. Imagine if that happened in real sports. Like, talking about the Super Bowl. Like, imagine if they came out on TV and said, "We're happy to see Patrick Mahomes is recovering from his severed spinal column, but now it seems like a good time to introduce everyone to his cousin Lance Mahomes." You just bring in some guy who has a not even a passing resemblance. Like if you squint your eyes and you're a little drunk, you could kind of see it resemblance.
Well, hopefully the new guy has a less annoying wife.
Well, true that. True that. So before we dive into this, so WWE has cut a lot of people in the last few days, and actually, right before we recorded this, it's being reported that they also cut Elektra Lopez. To which I'm making the joke that last year I met Sonya Deville, Carl Anderson, Alexander, and Elektra Lopez, and I think I need to send apology cards out. But
You got to stop meeting wrestlers. There ain't
I
gonna be any wrestlers left.
I know. Um, but I asked you this on Facebook, or I kind of mentioned it to lead to this discussion. Do you think wrestling companies, and specifically WWE, because AEW seems more or less to honor all their contracts, even if they don't use people for a year, do wrestling companies have a moral obligation to not just enforce the contract they sign wrestlers to, but also to live up to their end of the contract that they sign wrestlers to? Like, I get you're an adult. You can do whatever the hell you want. So if you don't want to sign this 3, 4, 5 year contract to this company that has all the power, you certainly don't have to. At the same time, if Cedric Alexander had gone to Triple H, and this may be a bad example because Cedric probably could have gotten a release. But let's say Cedric had gone to Triple H and asked for his release. Odds are Triple H probably would have said no and then sent Cedric to sit at home for the remainder of his contract as punishment for asking for his release. Whereas WWE can just fire you at will and you have nothing you can say about it. Because it's not like a real job. Because I said this online and someone said, well, in a real job, your job can just fire you. I'm like, yes, your job can just fire you at a real job, but also I can quit. Like if it's not working out, I can put in my notice and leave. Like these wrestlers do not have that option unless the company allows you to. So like if you're gonna have this much power, in my opinion, you should at least, you know, live up to your end of the promise and just fucking bite the contract. Because, I mean, obviously I'm not doing their fucking accounting, but I'm gonna bet all these people they released were not the high money earners of the fucking company. You know, they could
Yeah.
afford to pay off Cedric and Sonya and all these other people for however long they had left.
Yeah. So I think that morally speaking, companies do have an obligation to uh, uphold their ends of contracts, but practically speaking, there is no morality under capitalism.
There you go. All right. So now that we've covered everything else here in the first 20 or so minutes of this show, let's talk about other stuff. Let's talk about Mid-South Wrestling. Let's go to the intro of this week's show with Boyd Pierce and this week's co-host. I can't believe they're really bringing him in as a co-host, especially when we hear this show, Junkyard Dog. Let's go to that now.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another week of tremendous wrestling here on the Mid-South Wrestling Television Network. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, and we have a lot of exciting action. We move into the second round of Mid-South Television Championship Tournament. We'll see Masao Ito take on Leaping Lanny Poffo. Also, other great matches on the card, and our guest commentator, a man who needs no introduction, the Junkyard Dog.
It's always a pleasure to be out here among the fans and talk to the many fans throughout the TV land. And this is going to be one exciting program. We got a lot of exciting things going to happen.
I'm looking forward to it, and since you haven't been here with me, I've got to tell you, old buddy, like I tell everybody, enjoy it with me. Tell the people just what you feel in your heart, just what you see in the ring, but please stay with me. Do not interfere because you know what'll happen, okay?
Oh, yeah.
All right. That. One of the greatest athletes in Mid-South Wrestling and professional wrestling as a whole since he came here is Magnum TA. Made an impression on all of us. He trains hard with wrestling, too, but sometimes we have rest and relaxation. Something interesting we want you to watch along with us, Magnum TA.
All right. So today on Mid-South, it's the second round of the television tournament for a medal and $10,000. And I don't know why they keep calling each match a new round. Because it's not the second round, it's the second match of the first round. But yeah, either way, that's what we have here. Is Masao Ito versus Lanny Poffo. And this is the same Masao Ito who's never won a match on TV, fighting for the TV title.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine anything could possibly go wrong with that.
The championship of television.
Yes. Plus we got Junkyard Dog, who if you had trouble understanding what he was saying at that first little bit, just wait. We've got some good shit coming up later. From here we go. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm Southern. I speak old black man.
Well, I'm going to play a clip later, and I hope you can translate it here for me.
Okay.
But from here, they go to a music video for Magnum TA to the song Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. Sweet dreams are made of cheese. Who am I to disagree? A cheddar the world and a feta cheese. Everybody's looking for Stilton.
It just makes me think of the Quicksilver scene from X-Men Days of Future Past. Or no, not Apocalypse.
I never saw that movie.
Not an X-Men fan. So Quicksilver is like really fast. He's what's called a speedster. His whole thing is that he runs very fast. So there are these scenes. There's one in X-Men Days of Future Past that's to uh Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce. And then the
Okay.
one in X-Men Apocalypse is to Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, where there's like a disaster happening, but he runs really fast and saves everybody. And yeah.
Nice. Nice. I want to point out we are the only podcast in the history of podcasts to discuss Britney Mahomes, Matty in the House, and the Quicksilver screen and the Quicksilver scene in X-Men Days of Future Past and X-Men Apocalypse. Just
This
a
video
reminder.
this video was amazing. Okay, they synced his peck popping to the beat of the song. And then he's driving around in his fancy car, kissing hot women, drop kicking Kamala. Magnum TH looked like the coolest motherfucker on earth.
Hey, we talked about a few weeks ago that Mid-South's music videos, they just started doing them, so they were bound to get better. And here
Yes,
you
this,
are.
this was a big step up.
Yes. How much time do you think Joel Watts took to properly edit that in so, it timed out so his pecs are bouncing to the tune of the song?
He probably stared at Magnum TA's boobs for hours.
That explains why he's such a shit referee.
That'll do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna get a Midnight Express match, but first we're gonna go to the intro with Jim Cornette. Let's go to that right now.
Give me the microphone, Jim, or I'll back off someplace. I have a special message that I would like to impart to someone at the present time. Cowboy Bill Watts, you've made some derogatory statements about me and my men. You've made some insinuations about me and my mother. I don't appreciate it. Don't push it. If you do, the Cornette family may have to buy controlling interest in Mid-South Wrestling, and then I would have the decision whether to fire you or have you work for me. Now, I would like to introduce, without doubt, the greatest tag team in professional wrestling, the best looking, the most talented, the strongest and the fastest, Loverboy Dennis and beautiful Bobby, the Midnight Express.
All right. So Jim Cornette with laryngitis, still cutting the best promo on the show, I think.
Yeah, was this the first taping or the second taping? It was the second taping. He probably just yelled himself hoarse.
More than likely, because that last week's show was a bit crazy there for him.
Yeah.
So by the way, the Midnight Express have matching gear. We finally reached that point.
Kinda. They were both
yeah.
wearing green.
That's a step up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Midnight Express versus Tommy Hagee and Brian Adias, the world-class television champion, doing a job here on Mid-South TV. And did you notice we kind of had new graphics? And it wasn't really new graphics per se, but new font.
Yeah, just for a second. I did notice that.
Yeah.
JYD, not a fan of these Midnights in this Jim Cornette.
No, and it's almost like, they're setting things up for the future here.
Right? Funny how that works.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned that I wasn't a huge fan of JYD's commentary, and you mentioned you speak old black man. Well, I got a 31-second clip here. Please try to tell me what Junkyard Dog is about to tell us. This is during the Midnight Express match.
So far, before we get too deep into this match, getting back to that Magnum chair, that's every man's dream. Not only in professional wrestling, any other sports or any other job, is getting out, making a name for yourself, driving expensive cars, having the chauffeurs. Magnum had himself a nice chauffeur driving a big Rolls Royce, 2 or 3 girls out boogie where it looks so good to me, I start to jump back and kiss myself. But since I'm a married man and I have a family, so I'm not obligated, I'm not, into, doing things like this. But that Magnum team is making a name for himself, along with the help of wrestlers too.
All right, what the fuck did he just say?
He said Magnum TA is doing so well for himself that it caused me to feel to some degree live vicariously through him.
Okay. Hopefully, you're just as good at translating later on, because we have a lot more Junkyard Dog to go. I wrote that he said about 2,500 words in 30 seconds, and I understood about 6 of them. So Boyd said Jim Cornette would have to go through him to get to Bill Watts, and I have never wanted to see a match so much in my life.
Oh my God! That you'd sell out the Superdome. Boyd Pierce against Jim Cornette.
Yes. I wrote again. I have no fucking idea what Junkyard Dog was saying. Boyd was allegedly responding to things he was saying, but I will bet you $1,200. I don't know where that number came from. I will bet you $1,200. He has no idea what Dog was saying. And actually, here we go. I meant to type $1,000, and somehow I hit a 2 in there, so I kept it. Midnight Express won with their back suplex elbow, and I finally understood what Dog was saying. He threatened to get a partner to go after the Midnight Express.
To be fair, I often don't know what Boyd is responding to when he speaks.
But this is like the announce team from hell.
Mike Adamle and Matty in the House.
Oh my God. Mike Adamle, Matty in the House, and Junkyard Dog.
That's gonna be my commentary team when I'm in hell.
Whoa! Wow! Oh Lord. So up next, we get the second round of the television tournament for a medal and $10,000. It is Leaping Lanny Poffo versus Masao Ito, and they announced it's one fall with TV time remaining. There were 34 minutes left in the show, and I was begging them to go a time limit draw.
Oh God. 35 minutes. Oh, why would you wish that on me?
I wrote Poffo is grinning like someone who's going to win but doesn't know how. And then I wrote, allowing JYD to continue to do commentary is the worst thing Grizzly Smith has ever done this week.
He said during this match, you got to keep both of your peekaboos on your opponent at all times. That is a terrific line. Keep both of your peekaboos on your opponent.
So it's funny. This is like Masao Ito this is his third match, I think, on TV, or maybe fourth match actually. And he's not yet had a competitive match. His matches are he runs in, beats the shit out of the other guy, and loses via disqualification to the throat hold. However, here in the first round of our TV title tournament for a medal and $10,000, all of a sudden Lanny Poffo gets a shit ton of offense on him and went 50-50 with him in a fairly long competitive match. And I'm like, okay. And again, Lanny Poffo's great, but as we noted, outside of that first 2 weeks with Mr. Wrestling 2, he hasn't really been used as much more than a TV jobber.
Yeah. And by the way, Lanny was clearly struggling here, and I'm pretty sure it's because he watched Memphis TV last week and he's upset about the reprehensible behavior of his relatives.
Yes. That's more than likely. I think what happened was he went into the future, watched last week's show with us, and then went back into real time and was very frustrated.
It's going to go, damn it. Now people are going to think Mr. Wrestling 2 is right about my family.
Yep. So if he gets a promo in a few weeks, we'll know why. We'll know what happened there. And then I wrote, holy fuck, Ito actually won a match here in the second round of the television tournament for a medal and $10,000. He pinned Poffo with a headbutt.
I thought it was a jumping face kick followed by a splash, but yeah, either or, it doesn't matter. I'm
sorry, go ahead.
Boyd was just having the best time calling the show with JYD. Interesting. JYD warned that if Cornette keeps messing with Bill Watts, he's going to make Bill Watts come out of retirement.
JYD telegraphing the future here.
Yeah. Lanny did his best, but his best efforts couldn't overcome the fact that he's not getting pushed anymore.
They were to say his best couldn't overcome the fact he's wrestling Masao Ito.
Well, we've all got our challenges.
So with this win here in the second round of the tournament, Masao Ito is going to move into the sixth round of the tournament. Can you imagine if this was like, if they called them rounds like everybody else in the fucking world calls them rounds, and you tell them, okay, you win in the second round, you get to advance to the sixth round.
God. Oh, it's a shame that Brian and Vinny skipped over these shows because I want to hear Brian rant about this tournament.
I thought they started at this point.
Did they?
I never went back to re-listen to them. I thought they started a few weeks ago in January.
Oh, did they?
But,
yeah. Okay, that's right. Yeah. They skipped to 1984. Okay.
Yeah, because they were jealous that we already covered 81, 82, and 83, and they realized they could not do it justice in comparison to us, so they skipped ahead a little bit.
Yeah. Cowards.
Yep. Coward! Mr. Wrestling 2 versus Larry Santana, who is not related by kin to the great wrestling star Santana. We find out
or the great music star Tito Santana.
We find out here that every tournament match has one fall with TV time remaining, so no one complains they don't have enough time. And I pointed out that last week's match started with 12 minutes left in the show, and this week started with 34 minutes left in the show. That is bias unseen since the last time a Von Erich wrestled for a world title. Sorry, is this the wrong week to make that joke?
They wrestled a quote unquote scientific match while Dog talked about how he doesn't know how to wrestle. I'm sorry, I love Dog on commentary. It's so bad that it's my favorite thing.
So 2 wins with the knee. In ran the Midnight Express for a 1-on-2 beating. Oh yeah, 1-on-2 beating, yeah, because even though the Midnight Express ran in, 2 was still getting the better of it. And then Condrey attacked him from behind and let the heels take over. I think Dog asked where Magnum TA was. Finally, Midnight Express went after the mask, and since TA was taking his sweet fucking time getting to the ring, Dog ran away and kicked the Midnight Express's ass for a $2,500 fine.
Yeah, maybe that's where you got that $2,500 figure from.
There you go. There you go. All right. So, yeah, the match was your usual TV enhancement match. Do you have anything to add to it?
Did I make the joke last week that Larry Santana is from Huntsville, Alabama, but he's wearing LSU colors? Because I meant to.
You did not. You've been making a lot of sports references the last few weeks. What the hell's wrong with you?
I don't know sports, but I weirdly know like universities and stuff.
I mean, you are in the right area, you know.
Yeah, it's true. I grew up in the SEC, so it's everywhere, all the time, always.
Yep. And now you're I understand, a huge University of Houston fan.
I didn't realize that they had sports.
I somehow knew you were going to say that.
I went to the first couple of times that AEW came to Houston. They ran at the Fertitta Center, which is on U of H campus. That's the only time I've been there for sports. Now, the past 2 times, there's a new building at a little bit outside of Houston and Rosenberg. That the Fort Bend County Epicenter. It's a nice new building. That yeah, I went to Collision last night. Did we mention that?
I don't think so. Oh, we did on the pre-show.
Yeah, it was a good time. Good time was had by me, which is what matters.
There you go. I was going to say a good time had by all, but, hey, only you matter.
I think everybody had a good time. Apparently the crowd was really hot and came across really well on TV, and everybody really liked it.
I was busy watching 1992 pay-per-views.
Yeah, that's valid. Missed a really really good Mark Briscoe Kyle Fletcher match.
Yeah, but I saw Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog. How often can I just go and watch a 33-year-old match between Bret Hart and the British Bulldog? You can't just
You
do that
could
every day, Trey.
watch it 33 times a day if you wanted to.
I mean, you can watch it more than 33 times. It's a 30-minute match. You can watch it 48 times.
There you go. You did the math.
I always love that during that match, like it's like obviously it's in England. Obviously, the crowd is gonna love Davy Boy and Brett's gonna get a little bit of booing. But as the match goes on, they stop booing Brett and just start cheering both of the guys without that annoying 2025 both these guys chant.
That match to me is really like that's the match that you watch to really appreciate how fucking great Bret Hart was.
Like, obviously, we don't know when Vince made the final decision to put the belt on Brett, but it's pretty obvious that any argument against Brett was ended by this match.
Probably during this match.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, getting back to 1984, we are told on the screen that up next is a talk with Junkyard Dog. Someone is in trouble. All right. So back with JR and JYD, because JYD has been summoned to the principal's office.
I'm here at ringside with the Junkyard Dog, and we want to talk to you, Junkyard Dog, today about your match next week in the television tournament against Nikolai Volkov.
Well, let's get the first of it, the matters at hand. I know it's going to cost me $2,500 to come up here and do what I had to do. But I ain't nowhere in the world I'm going to sit my hand in over there and watch stuff like this goes on, because I could be next in that tarred and feather. And Wrestler 2 is a friend of mine. And look here, I'm no rich man. I don't have no whole lot of money. I got a family home to feed. I got myself to feed. But $2,500, well, income tax man, who about that listening, I'm going to pay this $2,500. If it calls again, I'll go borrow $2,500, and I'll do it again. Not that. I'll pawn this, I'll pawn that, I'll pawn that, I'll pawn my car.
Oh, you got very strong feelings. They said some things to you, I know, that runs real deep.
Oh, yes, they going to tar and feather me. My ancestor had something to do with this and that. You let sleeping dogs lie. When you start talking about tar and feather me, hanging me and doing this, then you digging up something that happened years and years ago, and I don't like it. $2,500? Like I said, it's a lot of money, baby. But I'm going to pay it, and if I have to do it again, I'll do it again, not getting back to Nikolai Volkov.
Next week, $10,000 on the line to the winner eventually in this tournament.
I need that money like a hog needs slop right now. That'll be money I can pay for this. And I'm going to wrestle Nikolai Volkov, whether it's here or anywhere else, man. But I'm telling you, man, I'm all upset because I just can't sit by and see stuff like this happen.
Well, of course, the people here are very excited. Remember, it's going to happen right here next week.
See what I'm talking about now?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, off camera,
I'm not gonna turn my back, no more rats at it.
Crusher Darsow and Nikolai Volkov are now coming to ringside. Now, wait a minute. We have time blocked out for the Junkyard Dog. Wait just a minute. This match is not scheduled, ladies and gentlemen. We were talking to the Junkyard Dog here at ringside. Well, I'm going to throw it back to Boyd Pierce right now. Well, Jim,
All right. So I may need a translation here. Although I had to laugh because JR said they blocked the time off to talk to Dog. They weren't talking to Dog until he attacked the Midnight Express. So what was previously scheduled for this 2.5 minutes on the show?
He was going to talk about Nikolai Volkov.
Maybe we were going to get a 2-minute promo with Nikolai Volkov from Crusher Darsow, which would rightfully make them angry if they lost their promo time. But anywho, so let me tell you what let me tell you what I wrote down, what I thought he said, and let you try to translate what he actually said, I guess. He said he doesn't have the money, but he will get it from his tax man. He doesn't like being tarred and feathered. And I'm like, if it helps, he didn't get tarred and feathered. And he said he needs the $10,000 like a hog needs slop. And I'm like, why? So he can run in on 3 more shows while commentating. Outwalk the Russians to yell in Russian. So Dog got in the ring because he's offended that you can't understand. He's offended when you can't understand other wrestlers. So what was I missing there?
Okay, so this might be my favorite thing that Junkyard Dog has ever done. His promo was hilarious. And he says he doesn't have a whole lot of money. He will pay the fine. He has that much money. He'll talk to his tax man, get it sorted out. And then he says, and if he has to do it again, he'll go borrow another $2,500. And if he has to do it again, he'll pawn this and he'll pawn that. And I think at one point he said that he would pawn himself. And I love my favorite part. Now Dog has a motivation to win the TV title tournament. He needs that prize money to pay fines.
Hey, we talked about that last week, actually.
Yeah.
Especially since, as we mentioned, the rule of Mid-South is you can't hold 2 singles titles. So if he were to win the television tournament for a medal and $10,000, he would promptly be stripped of the medal, which might just be his plan. Just keep entering the TV title tournament and keep winning $10,000.
That's a good plan. Hey, you can interfere in every match.
There you go. Let's see here. Did he talk at all about being tarred and feathered, or am I making that up?
He did talk about being tarred and feathered. Well, he referred to like they're talking about the possibility of tarring and feathering him, and he was not shibby with that.
He was not down with that shit, huh?
No.
So Dog and Volkov fight in the ring. Darso and Taylor fought out of the ring. Oh yeah, because Terry Taylor ran in. Masao Ito ran down to attack Dog. Taylor injured Darso's bum, and Ito injured Joe Savoldi. This is my favorite. Budrow runs down and nearly trips over Barry Darso and Terry Taylor, crashing face first into the apron, so he could grab and post Joe Savoldi. And then Boyd declared that the melee is breaking loose. Is that good or bad when the melee is breaking loose?
It was a very Memphis segment.
Yes, yes. You gotta love Bill Dundee turning this into Memphis South wrestling.
It's immediately better.
Yes.
By the way,
undoubtedly.
sorry. Last week on Collision,
Mm-hmm.
they had FTR against the Death Riders in Huntsville, Alabama. They challenged the Death Riders to a Mid-South street fight, which is fine, but it's Huntsville, Alabama. Should it not have been a Continental street fight?
It should have, because Huntsville was not part of the Mid-South territory.
It sure wasn't. A Gulf Coast wrestling street fight or a Southeastern street fight.
There you go. And we expect our modern day wrestling, if they're going to reference 40-year-old territories, we expect them to talk about the actual 40-year-old territory, damn it.
Well, especially if it's coming from Dax Harwood.
Yes. Yes. You think Dax brought this up and someone was like, it doesn't matter, nobody cares, or nobody will know the difference? Entirely possible.
Oh, but another tie back to this. They also mentioned at the show in Huntsville, and they posted a picture on Twitter. Dennis Condrey was there.
Yes, It's funny. I didn't remember seeing Collision, but I remember Dennis Condrey being referenced. So
yeah, they the promo on Dynamite when they did the challenge, he mentioned that Dennis Condrey was there.
That explains it. I watched Dynamite and not Collision. So then we get the Russians versus George Weingroff's penis and John King. Volkov sings the anthem, and George Weingroff's penis does not magically turn into Terry Taylor. I noted that there's about half a dozen fans actually standing for the Russian national anthem, and that JR has replaced the Junkyard Dog at the commentary desk. Has there ever been a bigger upgrade in commentary ever?
I'm sure if I thought about it, but that's a pretty good one.
Young John King is also wearing red tights, and well, maybe he's trying to become a Russian too, you think?
Maybe. I don't know. He's already got the tights. He doesn't need to.
Yeah. And but Darso submits him with the Canadian backbreaker, which, assumes that Nikolai Volkov will not want him on his team as he's a
Yeah.
loser.
Boyd has been here since the beginning, and he has never been as mad at anyone as he is that turncoat crusher Darso and that damn Jim Cornette.
Oh,
By
I
the
mean
way,
that jam Jim
yeah,
Cornette has done a great job at pissing him off. So
they did. They cut John King off to keep him from making the hot tag to George Weingross's penis, and that's why they were able to win.
I mean, when a wreck, he's difficult to get past.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Up next we get our oh yeah, I said Darso won. Up next we got Jim Neidhart versus Jerry Gray. How do you think they determine the order of the standby matches? Do you think they put all the matches in a hat and pull them out like Bizarro beat the champ?
I think that they ordered them according to which job guy looked the most generic, and that's why the last two are Jerry Gray and Tom Lentz. Jerry Gray
Yes.
looks like one of those generic wrestling figures that you'd see at the dollar store.
Yes. He was do you remember the action figure that they sold that was like a generic action figure, but it came with like 20 different masks and robes and shit like that, so you could take your one action figure and make, you know, infinite different, you know, wrestling combinations with it.
No, that actually sounds cool.
Yes. Well, that might have been based off Jerry Gray, just without all the
Ben.
fun masks and robes. Neidhart wins with a Samoan drop. Harry Taylor versus Tom Lentz, who played a little football. And yes, I will, as I mentioned every week, I will say that every time Tom Lentz wrestles on TV, just to remind us of that bizarro time Tom Lentz got a promo on TV. I I don't get it, but oh well. Taylor won with the move that one day becomes known as the five arm. I'm assuming you're
Not to
so
be confused
stunned
with
by this
the
Terry Taylor
because she
match.
calls that the rear view.
Yes.
I thought that this was a match that happened. It was a match with wrestlers in it. By the way, during the Neidhart match, Ross and Boyd were talking about Jim Cornette, obviously, because when Corny isn't on screen, the other character should be saying, "Where's Corny?"
Yes. He is the star of this show.
Mm-hmm. The
Just,
main
just without
character.
the championship cummerbund.
Oh, too bad. Give it
Ah,
time.
boy. So up next we have our weekly Rock and Roll Express music video, this time set to Beautiful Girls by Van Halen. Once again, it's clips we've already seen, just edited in a different order. I swear they're coming in at some point. Gibson was looking at the camera and the front door of the bar that they were in. He also made out with some girl in the second row of the Mid-South Coliseum while eyeing up the girls in the first and the third rows.
Probably not the first time.
Yes. But yeah, so from here we go to the end of the show where Jim Ross is back with our one poster board because, we can't have graphics. We're just going to have one poster board for the next 10 weeks. Jim Ross is with our poster board for the television tournament for a medal and $10,000. And he's going to try to tell us how it's going and go from there.
Fans, as you can see right here, the Mid-South Wrestling Television TV tournament for $10,000. See how the bracket is progressing now. We had another winner today on the tournament. Masayo Ito defeated Leaping Lanny Poffo, and now Masayo Ito will go against Terry Taylor as this tournament progresses here on Mid-South Wrestling. Next week, one of the great matches you'll see on this tournament will be the next round, and that'll be the Junkyard Dog as he battles Nikolai Volkov in the tournament.
Also, in future weeks, you'll see some tremendous matches like Crusher Darsow. He'll be going against Magnum TA. Also, you'll see such tremendous matches as Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Hacksaw Butch Reed going head-to-head in the tournament. Remember, the tournament not only carries a great deal of prestige, being the television champion on the #1 wrestling television program in America, but also a check. And you can see that check and the beautiful medal that will be presented to the winner, and the check right here in the corner for $10,000 that goes to the winner. $10,000 in this beautiful medal. Boyd Pierce, I know, has some exciting things to tell you about next week's program, and let's go back to Boyd.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for bringing us up to date on the tournament as it progresses. Next week, the third round, the Junkyard Dog versus Russian Nikolai Volkov. The popular girl wrestlers will be here. Wendy Richter versus Princess Victoria. So I know Oral Link has some pictures of those that he'd like to show you as our producer and director, and you'll be looking forward to seeing that. Live and in person next week on Mid-South Wrestling, the Rock and Roll Express, Robert Gibson and Ricky Martin. It's been outstanding wrestling in the ring and out of the ring. A lot of excitement. It's about taking my voice. It's taking my opening guest commentator's Junkyard Dog out. Jim Ross filled in for the later part. Our producer, engineer, and director, Oral Link. Engineer John Stokely. Our cameramen this week, Paul White and Ricky Cottingham, and you, the most famous of all, and one we depend on at home, the fans. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, and join us next week on this same television station for Mid-South Wrestling Television Network.
I just love the way he says Oral Link has pictures of them.
I bet he does. By
It,
the way,
it helped. Mhm.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it helped that they actually put up the pictures of the popular girl wrestlers, and so you weren't left with your mind going, "What pictures does Oral Link have of these girl wrestlers?"
I mean this very, very respectfully. Wendy
Mhm.
Richter was hot.
She was a very attractive woman. You know, that
Look, did we mention the song for the music video this week was "Beautiful Girls" by Van Halen?
I did. I noted it. I don't know if I actually said it, but I did note that that was the music vid. That was the song for the music video. Um, And so next week, we're going to have the third round of the television tournament for a medal and $10,000. The popular girl wrestlers and the Rock and Roll Express are going to be here in a match. Now, I hope you don't think
Really?
that means we're not going to have a Rock and Roll Express music video, because spoiler alert, we do. Um, and
So
then
the Rock and Roll Express isn't going to be the new Mil Mascaras. They're actually going to be here.
yes, 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 I swear it happens.
Or are they
And
going to
then
wrestle Dusty Rhodes in Houston?
possibly, possibly. And then the show ends with Boyd thanking more people than Hillbilly Jim's thanked during his Hall of Fame speech a few years ago, and the show finally came to a conclusion.
Yes, it did. It was a cool show.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah,
The show's been
it
so
was.
much better lately.
Oh yeah, it was easy to get through too. It's like,
Yeah.
they're spacing shit out better too. Like, that was part of the problem
Yeah.
before. It's like they would have their main event match would be the first or second match on the show, would go 5 minutes, and then you'd have 45 minutes of, standby matches with no promos and no nothing else. It's like, oh boy, this show is taking a deep dive here.
Yeah. They're getting a lot better at breaking stuff up.
Yes. All right. Um, So we head over west, and I was actually like, this show's from February 11th, it's a World Class show. David Von Erich died on the 10th. So I know it doesn't sound like much. Oh, well, they had a whole day to edit in that clip of Mercer you played. It's like they still had to tape that and edit that into the end of the show, and probably edit out a minute somewhere else, you know, in order to
Yeah.
squeeze that in.
Maybe
All
they
right.
edited a minute off of the opening match, or maybe they're just bad at timing again.
Off a opening match. Um, so let's go to the intro with Bill Mercer here. And we're going to listen to some funky music while he talks about our matches today.
World-class championship wrestling from the most famous wrestling arena in the world, the Sportatorium in downtown Dallas, Texas. And this was to be our scheduled main event. Freebird Buddy Roberts against Kevin Von Erich. But this is Kevin Von Erich after he was allegedly attacked by the Freebirds. And so Mike Von Erich took his place in the six-man tag team championship. Kevin regained consciousness, interfered in the match, hit everything and everybody in sight, including his brothers David and Mike Von Erich. And so Kevin caused the disqualification of his brothers, and the Freebirds are the six-man world tag team champions. We'll talk to David and Kerry about this later. We have a great classic match of the past coming up first on World Class Championship Wrestling. The Mask Avenger and gorgeous Jimmy Garvin next.
All right. So they explain it later, and not that the explanation really makes it any better, but the six-man tag team titles were decided in a six-man, obviously, between the Freebirds and the Von Erichs. Kevin was attacked backstage and taken out of the match, and he was replaced by Mike Von Erich. The finish of the match saw Kevin Von Erich, who was a scheduled participant in the match, run in, interfere, and lead to his team be disqualified.
Yeah, that was a dumb thing that happened.
Yes. I swear, like if I wasn't sitting here watching World Class explode in popularity, I'd wonder how the hell they ever exploded in popularity.
At least he didn't come in and get pinned for a title change, but then they reversed the title change because he wasn't in the match.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them at this point, you know. So we get a replay of our match from September with the Masked Avenger versus Jimmy Garvin. And of course, Masked Avenger was Chris Adams and all that fun, happy horse shit. So here's the thing. Do you think that's what happened? That because they had to add that David Von Erich thing at the end, they took out whatever the actual opener was going to be and put in this match since they had to fill up that amount of time?
You know, that's entirely possible. Why else would you put a 20-second match in there? Yeah, because there are like, oh, are you gonna tell me, oh, that's a travesty? David Von Erich's death is a tragedy for many reasons, but none more so than the fact that the need to edit the show may have denied us the battle between Perro Aguayo and Fishman.
I was like, what the hell are you talking about? You suddenly went off there for a second.
Go off on a tangent. I can't imagine such a thing.
Yes, but at least typically we, have something to add to it. By the way, we will be seeing that match next week. Spoiler alert.
Great. Well,
yes.
See, I see like if I can just baffle you where you have no idea where I'm going, I feel like I win.
It wasn't so much that, it was like it sounded like you got distracted by something you were watching on TV, and I was like, okay, what the hell's he talking about here?
Look, I have severe untreated ADHD. I don't need TV to distract myself. I can get distracted while I'm talking by what I'm talking about.
Ooh, a fuzzy little bunny.
Mm-hmm.
So we fast forward to 7 minutes and 30 seconds into the show for our opener, which is Super Destroyer number 1 with General Skandor Akbar and Super Destroyer number 2 in his corner versus our favorite wrestler, Johnny Mantell. And find out that...
The first thing that I wrote was, if this is a 15-minute draw, I swear to Gotch.
Poor Gotch. I noted that apparently the Super Ds won the American Tag titles back at some point, and upon looking into it, they won them on January 30th in Fort Worth at a Star Wars event. And that was also where the aforementioned convoluted Freebirds Von Erich match happened, and also had Ric Flair versus Mike Von Erich in a 10-minute time limit draw.
Oh, that. Okay, that's not on this show. I knew that was a thing that happened. That was on the mysterious Fort Worth TV.
Yes, the show that doesn't really exist. Um, so Mercer said Mantell has turned into one of the elites. I knew I hated that group for a reason.
The elite.
I,
The elite.
Imagine if Johnny Mantell showed up on an episode of Being the Elite. I might actually watch it just to see how preposterous it would be. Um, so
Johnny Mantell on the opening match of Dynamite, wrestling a 10-minute draw against Kenny Omega.
of course. Um, so we find out during this match that in the main event of today's show, Kevin is going to be replaced by David Von Erich. Oh
How
boy.
about that?
Yes. Plus, we're informed that Billy Knitsky will debut soon, who is the son of Gene Knitsky. I wonder if he's also the son of Gene Kiniski. I wrote this was very much a 1984 John Mantell match. It went way too long, and they were teasing the time limit draw right away. I wrote, seriously, has anyone ever been in more time limit draws than Johnny Mantell? And this is, I got sent down a rabbit hole at this point because I'm like, I'm not fucking watching more 15-minute time limit draws with Johnny fucking Mantell. So I started thinking about how, all you hear when people talk about the old NWA World Champions, they always did a 60-minute time limit draw every night in every city. It was a 60-minute time limit draw all the fucking time. And now, even though we've seen many, many, many TV matches that have not been a 60-minute time limit draw, I decided to go down the rabbit hole, and I found out that yes, the NWA champion did do a lot of 60-minute draws. However, it's complete bullshit that they were doing one every fucking night.
Oh yeah.
And at this point, while I'm ranting and raving, that's where the match went to the 15-minute time limit draw, because of course John Mantell needed to go even longer than usual. We got a hot near fall for both in the last 30 seconds, and that was it. So I researched and discovered that there were only 57 verified 60-minute time limit draws that Ric Flair did as NWA champion. He did one also as WCW champion and has a plethora of, shall we say, less than 60-minute time limit draws. So you're 30, 45, 10, etc. And there are, unfortunately, Cage Match isn't complete, but there were probably a dozen other time limit draws that didn't have a specific time limit. So even being generous, in that 9 years during the 80s where Ric Flair was essentially the NWA champion the whole time, he did maybe 75 to 80 1-hour draws, which admittedly is still a lot of 1-hour draws, but it's not, I did 7 1-hour draws this week. That level of bullshit that you hear from people. And the last 60-minute draw that I could find, the last verified one that I could find, was August 15th, 1987 in Baltimore against Ron Garvin.
Huh.
So, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, as far as like the most draws, you've got guys like in New Japan when two young lions start together. Like for instance, right now the newest are Daiki Nagai and Masatoru Yasuda. They've wrestled each other to like 28 straight 10-minute draws.
Are any of them as bad as any of our John Mantell 10-minute draws?
No, everybody who's ever graduated from the New Japan Dojo is a better wrestler than John Mantell.
And their brother probably wasn't booking New Japan at the time. Although, do we know that Gato and Jato's brothers aren't young boys?
It's entirely possible that Evil is Gato's brother.
Suddenly, everything makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Next week, they do announce Ric Flair versus Chris Adams for the NWA World Title. I promise that does happen. And then we get our second match because, hey, we had Super Destroyer number 1 in the first match. So you know what we need in the second match? Super Destroyer number 2 with General Skandor Akbar and Super Destroyer number 1 versus Iceman King Parsons.
Are you fucking kidding me?
What?
Iceman and Super Destroyer number 2?
Yes.
What the fuck?
I wrote this is going to go another 15 minutes, isn't it? And thankfully it didn't. It went 7. But that's, more than enough here. But Iceman wrapped up his number... Wow. Oh, geez. Okay. This is what happens when you try to make a joke, but it doesn't work. Iceman wrapped up his number 2 in an armbar. Is that the best way to wrap up number 2? It feels dirty. I really should read these notes ahead of time when I write these stupid jokes.
That's terrible.
The good news is we have a lot of show to go, so odds are this is not going a 15-minute draw. Mercer randomly gives a shout-out to our friends in Green Bay, because apparently we have friends in Green Bay. And then Iceman won with a roll-up in about 7 minutes, and then stood tall as the heels bailed out.
Yeah, this was the match that happened. Look, this one, it was better than the last match. I didn't almost fall asleep, and I didn't think about quitting the show.
Wow. It's good to know that John Mantell has that power over you.
Yeah.
So suddenly, we're joined in mid-thought by Bill Mercer in a weird blue room. Let's go to that now.
Now, that feud goes back a long time, but it was highlighted, of course, by Kerry Von Erich eliminating Michael Hayes from the state of Texas in a bout. Michael could not wrestle in Texas. And then Kevin Von Erich and Mike Von Erich teamed up to eliminate Terry Gordy. They could not wrestle in Texas. Now, this was an agreement between the Von Erichs and the Freebirds only. It had nothing to do with the NWA. And then, at that same match of Mike and Kevin beating Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts, Michael Hayes came back, dressed as Santa Claus, attacked Mike in the ring. Now, the Von Erichs then went into Georgia to battle for the six-man world championship. They took the championship in there, and you lost the championship in part because the Iron Claw was banned by the Freebirds' power in the state of Georgia.
Well, Bill, you got to realize that the Claw is a very, very important part of the Von Erichs' attack, our arsenal. But it's not the only attack we have. But in Georgia, with the rules the Freebirds have had made down there, it doesn't make it fair. It doesn't make it a fair match. So we brought it back down here to Texas. We welcomed them back here to Texas to have that match because it put the rules back where they belong, on the even slate.
That was really where you said, let's bring them back into Texas. The agreement is over, and now we come up to the six-man tag team championship just earlier this week in Tarrant County Convention Center, and Kevin Von Erich, Kerry, and David were scheduled to be the six-man event. However, just before the match, you were going to meet with some fan club members, and Kevin had a phone call. What happened exactly?
From a Japanese magazine, Kevin had the phone call. Dave and I, we went to meet these people of the fan club.
Kevin
we wondered at the time, it went through our head, why wasn't Kev with us? But we knew he was with that Japanese reporter, talking on the phone, and that was important, and he needed to be doing that. When we came back, my brother Kevin was laying on the floor, and he was a bloody mess. And he wasn't himself. His eyes were glassed over. The doctor said no way he could fight. We knew when we saw him that he wasn't going to be able to fight Bill. And so that's what happened.
He didn't recognize me. He didn't recognize Kerry. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know who he was. He knew he'd been in a fight, and he knew he wanted to fight again. That's all Kev knew at the time.
So he had a concussion of
he
some
had
degree.
His eye was all, you wouldn't believe it. Stitches, just terrible, Bill.
So you brought Mike Von Erich into the six-man, and you were doing quite well in the battle with the Freebirds, Tarrant County Convention Center early this week, and this is what happened. Kevin came around.
All right, so before we talk about this, I got to tell you that, the Super Bowl is playing in the background, and there's a commercial. Turns out it's for Pfizer, but it starts with this kid getting out of a hospital bed and, going through the hospital, and everyone's so happy because the kid's getting out of the hospital. And I was so convinced it was ending with the kid stepping outside and getting hit by a car.
What? Wow.
Unfortunately, the child did not get hit by a car. He beat cancer though, so good for him.
Good for him. Yeah.
Oh,
Good for him.
yeah. So I again, the people who upload these shows onto YouTube are just downloading the episodes from the cock. So we're not getting anything special like we do with the Mid South shows. So obviously they had something in there that got edited out because I played exactly where it started. Mercer is just in mid sentence, suddenly starting to talk about, what happened. And poor Kevin, he had a phone call with a Japanese reporter who had to talk to him, you know, right before a big match in Texas. So it's like, what, I think like Japan's what, 14 hours ahead or so. So they called Kevin Von Erich at 10 in the morning to ask about whatever the hell they were asking him about.
Well, the business never sleeps.
True that. True that, I guess. Um, and I did know this was obviously like before they air the ending. Obviously, you can't have, the end of the show till you have the middle of the show. But before they had the ending with Bill Mercer, um, here's just David Von Erich cutting a promo. And I thought about when Magnum TA got into his motorcycle wreck, and a few days after that on WCW Saturday Night, they had a Magnum TA promo and they threw up a taped earlier graphic because it was a big news story. And suddenly here's a guy who was in a horrible motorcycle wreck, standing tall and at attention and cutting a promo about Nikita Koloff. It didn't make no sense. So they threw up the taped earlier graphic. Whereas this, it's like, there's no taped earlier graphic. There's nothing. So I imagine, like, because hey, when I was a kid, I thought all pro wrestling shows were live on TV. So I guarantee there were confused people who thought that this was live, and how is David Von Erich dead if he's sitting here talking to us?
Well, luckily we have graphics.
Now, I actually have to ask you about that because, like, as I just said, when I was a kid, I thought all wrestling shows were live. Like WCW Worldwide aired on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on my local channel, and I had no problem believing that there was a wrestling show at Disney Studios at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Did
Yeah,
not doubt
well,
it for 1 second.
I mean, it totally could be. And also, like, that's a pretty common little kid thing that you think, like, TV or radio or whatever is always live.
Yeah. It honestly, like, it was either an issue of PWI or Bischoff during the Monday Night Wars when I realized that not every wrestling show is live. So it could have been Bischoff, but I also remember PWI would put on their arena results and they'd be putting in a month of Raw results, and I'd be like, that didn't happen on this day. These happen on 3 or 4 different shows. What the hell are you talking about? But
And
yeah,
eventually the wheels started turning and you figured it out.
exactly. So I guess I mean, I know by the time you started watching, the vast majority of wrestling shows were live. But I guess when did you realize that not all wrestling shows were live?
Trying to remember. I I think I figured out. Okay, I never got Jacked in Metal. I never got any of the syndicated stuff for whatever reason. I had cable. I didn't get any of the syndicated stuff. But I realized that Heat used the same set as SmackDown. You remember the Ovaltron?
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the first inkling that I had. And then I don't know if I started reading like magazines or the internet or whatever, you see references to SmackDown tapings or whatever. I don't know. I don't recall it being like a big revelation, but I was 12. You were like a lot younger than I was watching wrestling.
Well, you want to know how smart I was in the late 90s? Because I knew
No.
SmackDown was taped on Tuesday and that Heat was taped the same time, because for the same reason. It had, the same Tron. And so I somehow assumed that because SmackDown aired first, that they taped SmackDown first, and then they taped Heat or whatever other B show after SmackDown.
Yeah, that can get really confusing. And by the way, you know something that grinds my gears? I don't know why this
Yes,
has
Peter
become such an
Griffin?
issue. Like every like AEW TV, or at least like one a week, like usually the Collision, will have several matches taped for Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
And some will be taped before Collision and some will be taped after Collision, and
Mm-hmm.
then they will reorder them on the air show, whatnot, which is fine. But I have my own database, and the OCD goblins that live in my brain require me to figure out what order stuff was taped in. So the fact that it has become impossible to find just like simple, reliable information about these ROH tapings drives me crazy. And I have long suspected that part of the problem was whoever puts those reports on the Observer site just did a really half-assed job of it. And I confirmed that when I woke up today and I checked the Observer site, because last night, like
I
before
was
I ever
I
left
was honestly
the
I was
arena,
honestly surprised you didn't send those in.
I did. I emailed them to Dave before I left the
Oh.
building last night.
Okay, that's your problem. Dave is going to use them,
Yes.
but he'll use them for the Observer.
Yeah, he will
You
put
have
them
to,
in the Observer, and he'll
yeah,
have them in the right order too. But it's the
yeah.
fact that like whoever did, like you just got the results off a cage match, which is fine, but then like you have them in reverse order for some reason. Like why? After I took the care to send you the shit in the right order with finishes and shit, just why?
um, yeah. If you want it on the website, you have to send it to Josh Nason.
Okay.
Yeah, I I I learned that during one of the TNA shows that I went to. I sent them to Dave and wondered why the hell they were using from Cage Match instead of from the person who kind of sort of writes for your website. And I emailed Josh, but I'm like, he's like, oh, just send them to me. Dave doesn't post them. So I I I
I'll remember
I,
that in the
I
future.
I always laugh. You know, I love writing, but I always laugh when like Josh or somebody from the Observer site will edit the hell out of something I write, but I'll send the same exact thing to Dave, and the stuff that I write that isn't good enough for the front page of the website is somehow good to be included word for word in the Observer. You know, I
Well, I
always thought that
mean,
was funny.
have you read the Observer?
It used to be a bigger compliment than it is now. But by the way, this is what happened in the middle of the promo with the Von Erichs, because there's still half of a promo to go.
Oh,
So
Dave,
after
if you need an editor, I'm available.
I offered actually once, like remember that time that he reported that Triple H and The Rock had the backstage, battle or whatever, to build up a future WrestleMania match. I think it was last year, the year before, and he was just seeing a tape from 10 years ago and got confused. I messaged him. I'm like, just letting you know if you like, I can, do some Thursday night editing for you and proofread or whatever, and never heard back.
Yeah, somebody needs to do it.
Yep. I there it's like, oh my God, it's like I love Dave, but it's like, again, if I didn't have a free subscription, I wouldn't be reading the damn thing. Um, I forget what it was, but there was something in the Observer in like the first 500 to 1,000 words this week that was so horribly written that I'm like, oh my God. I was ready to back out and just give up on it at this point because it was, like I said, it was hard to read.
Yeah, and we
Anyway,
love Dave. We love
yes.
Dave. We say that every
Yeah,
time, but
yep.
Dave needs a better editor.
I love Dave. You know, some of like, I brag that I'm an Observer Hall of Fame voter. You know, I literally went around and have tried to drum up people to vote for my book as best book in the Observer Awards, which is coming out next week. So fingers crossed. We'll see if the 4 people I got to vote for me made any difference.
Hope so.
Yes. I don't even know what other books came out this year, so hey, maybe I do have a chance at winning.
What came out this year? The Becky Lynch book, I think. The Ronda Rousey one that covers her wrestling career, I think. Yeah, I don't
So what
know.
you're
I'm
saying is
looking
I
at
don't have I don't really have a chance at winning, is what you're saying.
Well, I haven't read either of those yet, so yours could very well be better.
Fingers crossed. Tap on wood. I think they're better. But anyway, David and Kerry Von Erich still have some promo to cut, and let's listen to them for 90 more seconds.
The Freebirds, hand-raised, 6-man World Tag Champions. And, of course, Kevin Von Erich interfered. Obviously, Kevin was battered, and obviously he didn't know too much about everything because he attacked David and he hit Mike.
That's right. He didn't know what was going on, Bill. He was beat up bad, like we just said. He didn't know what was happening. He just knew that he had a fight to be in, world title fight, and it's meant so much to all of us. He didn't know what was happening. It was obvious. You saw.
Thing was, it was obvious to Kev that it was the Freebirds that had jumped. It was obvious to us, and it was obvious to everybody there in the building that night. But the whole thing that boils down to was what they did to Kev is not going to be forgotten.
What you do to one of us, you do to all of us. That's right.
So that brings us up to this program, and later on, Kevin was to meet Buddy Roberts. You two were to be in his corner, and Roberts would have Gordy and Hayes in his corner. Now, you've decided, David decided to wrestle in place of Kevin.
We decided together. I mean,
now wait a minute, Kerry. We've already talked about it, so it's not important. I am the next oldest brother. So it's my duty. I'm taking care of this one. I'm stepping in for Kev. Now I'm going to have Kerry and Mike in my corner, so that's just fine. They'll stop
There'll
Michael
be
Hayes
no
and Terry Gordy. There will be no outside interference. That leaves you and me, Buddy Roberts, and I'm going to give you the tail kicking you ain't never had in your life.
Oh, you better believe that, Buddy Roberts.
All right. David Von Erich then will take Kevin's place in this event coming up. Kerry and Mike will be in his corner, and Gordy and Hayes will be in Buddy's corner, and we'll be back with more world-class championship wrestling.
So David says that he's the big brother, so it's his responsibility to fill in for Kevin. Well, David, about that. ...
Yeah.
I didn't notice the first time, and I wasn't paying enough attention this time. Did he threaten to beat up Terry Gordy during this match?
I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention.
Okay, great. This is such a great promo that it forced us to listen to that neither of us paid attention to it. So yeah, it's obvious to everyone that the Freebirds jumped Kevin. Hey, that's not proof. You need proof, actual proof. You can't just accuse the Freebirds of attacking, somebody in a blatant sneak attack like that. They're strong, I mean, I think everyone could pretty much figure that that's what happened, but you can't just assume that. It's innocent until proven guilty, God damn you.
Well, you know what they say about whatever that was. I don't know, my train of thought is not on track today.
See, I thought it was because you noticed that we've had commercials with both Eugene Levy and Daniel Levy in them so far during the Super Bowl.
I feel like I should know who Daniel Levy is, and I don't.
Did you ever watch Schitt's Creek?
Oh, okay. Him. Yeah, okay.
Yes. Or Dan Levy. He's not always Daniel Levy, but yeah.
I watched like one episode of that show, and I think it didn't take.
I mean, hey, it's not for everybody, but it's a pretty goddamn good show.
It's probably it's one of those that I should probably like. I would probably really like it if I sat down and watched it. Like, you feel that way about Modern Family? I probably really like Modern Family.
Modern Family was really, really, really good until like the 6th season. And then it went downhill and went downhill fast, and it went 11 seasons.
They don't. Very few shows need more than 6 seasons.
Sometimes you need a movie too.
Yeah,
Hashtag 6 seasons in a movie.
and an animated series.
Yes. But we're not going to get a community animated series, unfortunately. I mean,
Oh, I
at
thought
this
we were
point,
talking
we're
about
lucky to
Corner
get.
Gas.
I kind of was, yeah. But the whole 6 seasons in a movie thing, the trope started from Community.
We should just like quit watching these shows and just do a podcast reviewing Corner Gas episodes.
I can't imagine that fewer people would listen.
Yeah.
And we'd like not even like acknowledge it or anything. Like we'd keep calling it something else. We'd use the same graphics and everything, but we'd just be talking about Corner Gas.
Yeah. We could at least
Oh
watch
man.
the Lance Fury episode.
Well, that's like 3 seasons into the animated run. We can go like 140 episodes before we get to there.
Is there more episodes of Corner Gas than there is Mid South Wrestling, or not Mid South, Smoky Mountain Wrestling?
That's close. Because you have 6 seasons, a movie, and then a 4-season animated. There's probably more Smoky Mountain shows. But I think the animated only did like 10 or 11 episodes a year, and the regular show did like 18 episodes a year. So they quote unquote probably only did 150 episodes, whereas Smokey does 200.
Jackass.
I know. But hey, we definitely have fun talking about Corner Gas.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one week we should just do that and see if anybody notices.
There we go. Next time there's no world class, we'll just do an episode of Corner Gas.
There you go. We didn't move to Corner Gas, April 17th, 2005, from Rollo, Saskatchewan. Oh my God, I'm going to message you something afterwards. But anyway, let's get to our main event because, the show's never going to end at this point. Buddy Roberts with Michael and Terry versus David Von Erich with Von Erich and Von Erich in his corner. But Terry Gordy demanded to replace Buddy, and well, it was allowed. So the fight's on. So we have Terry Gordy with Michael and Buddy versus David Von Erich with Von Erich and Von Erich. And let's be honest, this was the best option. So they fight, they fight, they fight, they fight, they fight, 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 fight. The Freebird and Von Erich show. David gets the claw on, and a riot ensues as all six get into a huge fight. Mike got the boot and ran the clan off. So if David didn't die, here's a question for you. If David doesn't die, do they add a Freebird?
Jimmy Garvin's right there.
Yeah, I mean, David Garvin was David Garvin. Wow, Jimmy Garvin was a fake bird. But yeah.
Wait,
It's very.
Go ahead, finish.
I say it is possible, and I mean, if you're going to pick anybody, I don't want to say he's as good as any because he really wasn't, but I mean, there really isn't a whole lot of people that you could, plug into that spot.
Oh, you know who's coming soon?
Lance Von Erich.
Gino Hernandez.
Yes, he is. I think a part of the reason why I've stuck it out this long because I'm waiting for Gino, but I don't think he's here till like August or September.
But I love when a guy uses a cowboy boot as a weapon. It's always hilarious for some reason.
I mean, those things tend to be a little thicker soled, so I mean.
Yeah, and I mean they're fucking heavy. Like especially if you had like a fucking big steel toe boot. Like I get it. And you could take a big, heavy steel toe boot and whack somebody in the face with it. And that's why it's great. Because it sucks, but it's a funny visual.
Mm-hmm. By the way, and obviously this is when this company's dead and we're going to be questioning how the hell are we still watching this kind of thing. But doesn't Iceman become a Freebird in like 86 or 87?
Probably, yeah.
I feel like I know that that happens, but I don't know that that happens. Or if he does, or maybe if he isn't a formal Freebird, he's aligned with them. Maybe
Yeah.
we are gonna have. Uh, okay. So my plan all along has always been to do all of Mid South, even once it gets bought out. Because the last episode is like the last week of December '87, and that's always been my plan is just watch it out to the end. And that's also when Fritz pretends to have a heart attack. Do you think we're going to be able to make it that far?
uh, let's see. Jesus, that's
About 4
it's
years.
almost 4 whole years. Am I gonna be alive that long?
Well, I figured this is why this is how you're still alive because you have a goal. You have to finish, Mid South. Because I mean,
Uh,
there's what 110 episodes of Smoky Mountain left, so that's just over 2 years. I've thankfully only got like 80 more episodes of TNA to go. So there's that. But yeah, there's 4 solid years of Mid South, and like Mid
and
South,
then
like
you'll
everyone remembers '84 is great, but '85 is apparently really good too. So
then you'll talk me into doing fucking Memphis or Portland or Southeastern or some shit.
hey, I have zero interest in doing Portland or Southeast.
Portland is
Although
weird. I would actually really like to do Southeastern. Portland is weird because it's like it wants to be like it wants to be Southern wrestling, but it's not, and it's just weird.
um, I remember at some point we said we were going to do Lucha Underground, so maybe we'll have to do that after Smoky Mountain.
Yeah, that's because I've only ever seen like an episode or two of that.
We'll see if we last. I kept trying to get into it. I think I've made it like 10 episodes in, and that's as far as I've ever gone. But oh
Well,
well. So it feels like we've been talking forever, but it's only been 90 minutes.
yeah, it's
Weird.
shit. I still got to go to the fucking grocery store.
But yeah, the Von Erichs and the Freebirds fight, and then the show ends with Bill Mercer telling us that David's dead. And I
Sad.
and this is Death Week because tomorrow on TNA, Kurt Hennig is dead. But
It's something about this time of year.
spoiler alert, although I guess I haven't watched Smoky Mountain yet for this week, but I'm fairly certain nobody on Smoky Mountain dies the week that the show aired this week.
Well, that's a relief.
Now, as we say that,
You know,
Dirty White Boy's going to die tomorrow or something.
you know, I worry about Mr. Ron Wright with his heart condition. I worry that he's not getting his pills.
I'd worry about him more if he was still alive.
A damn Tammy witch with a capital B. She's not taking care of him.
Yes. So yeah, by the way, this is actually the least listened to show of the 3 shows I do a week. So I mean, we could just give hardcore spoilers about everything in the world and nobody would fucking know about it.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Well, the Eagles are currently up 7-0 with 4 minutes to go in the first quarter. And one of the players on the Chiefs, Jones, apparently has a hurt neck because some white guy is squeezing the back of his neck, and I'm hoping it's a trainer, and it's causing him to make a face. It's great when you're watching all this on mute. And I'll tell you, like, I don't know, maybe they're better like actually with it off mute, but the commercials so far really haven't been that great.
Oh, I thought that was the whole appeal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's probably like if I would actually be watching them and paying attention to them and not talking about a dead Von Erich. But
yeah, but talking about a dead Von Erich is more fun.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Wow. But yeah, so this is the world we're in, and we're 3 months away from Terry getting the world title. And I think we mentioned this, but I know I messaged this to you, but the reason Kerry got the world title is the same reason Kerry lost the world title, and that is Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
God damn it.
So not saying that they may not have ever given him, a quick run with it, after David died, but the final reason why they did it was because Vince was kissing up to Fritz, and it seemed like Fritz was going to go with Vince. So they put the world title on Kerry to get Fritz's loyalty. And then because Vince is in the middle of taking over the wrestling world. Oh, by the way, there's a player on the Eagles named Steen. I just had to stop to say that.
Well,
So
fight, Steen, fight.
yes. So while Vince was in the middle of taking over the wrestling world at this point, this was when what was the name of that? USA Pro, I think, where like the
Yeah.
AWA, NWA, I think Memphis, and a bunch of smaller companies all like combined for super show things. You know what I'm talking about? Pro Wrestling USA, I think is what it was called.
Yes.
And so they were having a big show at the end of May 1984 in the Meadowlands with Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, and it was determined that it means a lot more if Flair goes in as the world champion and not Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah.
So,
That's
and
by the way, Fritz ain't got no loyalty to nobody. Fritz wasn't even loyal to Baba.
well, I know, but that was the theory at the time was
Yeah.
if they give Kerry this run, Fritz won't jump to Vince. And to be fair, he never does jump to Vince.
That's
you know?
fair.
Yeah. I was going to say something very important, I'm sure, and now I can't think of it. So, well, here's the thing. Do you think it would have been like I know not saying match quality, because obviously Flair Steamboat, that's your match. If you want to prove that you're the better wrestling company, that's the match you want to do. However, do you think it would have been better had they done Kerry versus Flair with Flair getting the belt back in the Meadowlands instead?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Because I mean, although to be fair, they did actually do a finish to that Flair Steamboat match. Because when I first was reading about it, I was like, well, it would have been better to do Kerry because they would have at least gotten a finish and not fuck the fans over on your first show. But actually, they did do a finish in that Flair Steamboat match. So at least they were smart enough to do that.
Yeah. So I know they were on in Boston, but would World Class have been on in like New York, New Jersey?
I honestly don't know. I
Hmm.
don't think so, but because I know, like, I don't even know what channel they would have gotten on because I think Crockett was on a Spanish language channel. So
Yeah.
it's like if mhm,
World Class was like heavily syndicated. Like they're even like
yeah,
they're gonna do a fucking tour of Israel. Is that this year?
wasn't that
Next year?
the
That's when
yeah,
Mike gets the shoulder injury, right?
I think so. But wasn't that also like they weren't officially syndicating it, like they were bootlegging the tapes or something?
Yeah, but I mean, does it really matter? It still got him
Well,
a whole tour of sold shows.
that's true. But at the same time, hey, it's like, if another country is showing your tapes, I'd like a check for that, please, and thank you. And that's probably where the sold shows come from, though. It was probably like, well, we'll to make up for it, can we just do a tour and give you some money for it? And Fritz is probably like, yeah, sure, what the hell?
Yeah,
Um,
works out for everybody.
it is funny though when you go back and watch like this is the wrestling that people grew up on and went crazy for. And I can't judge because the wrestling that got me into wrestling was the Bushwhackers and Brutus Beefcake, and all that. So it's like, who am I to judge? It's not
The
like I
closing scene, the closing scene on the first wrestling show that I ever watched was The Rock rock bottoming Davey Boy Smith onto a tray of dog shit.
and my former co-host KJ started watching wrestling when Roman Reigns was tied up and Baron Corbin shoved dog food in his face.
I don't think I would have stayed for that.
So somehow, like as much as I, put down the show that made me a fan, um, somehow it was a lot better than what other people saw as their first show and still stuck it out.
Yeah, well, every show is somebody's first show.
Yeah. Like every wrestler is somebody like every wrestler is someone's favorite wrestler. And I always kind of doubted that, except like in Batista's book, he talked about how his favorite wrestler was the Warlord. I'm like, how many fucking people were fans of the fucking Warlord? But Batista
That's
was.
kind of that's kind of sweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Batista's a
And I
Warlord fan.
yeah. And I used to have a coworker who was a big Nia Jax fan, and and my friend's birthday was the day of the WrestleMania in New Orleans when Nia Jax won the title.
Cool. I was there.
Yeah.
I always
So
I
yeah.
always wanted the I always wanted to buy the I'm not like most girls shirt because I am in fact not like most girls in that I am a boy.
You are not like most girls. I prefer, like, for the most part, obviously there's some that are just painfully obvious, but I prefer wrestling shirts that when you look at them, you don't know that they're wrestling shirts. Like there's this Johnny Gargano shirt I have that I doubt Johnny Gargano could tell you it's a Johnny Gargano shirt because from him when he was in the Indies and it looks nothing like a fucking wrestling shirt. But that's partially why I love it so much.
I wore what shirt did I wear? I wore an All Japan Pro Wrestling t-shirt because of course I did.
I meant to ask you, did you know this was not all Japan?
I did, but they still let me in with the shirt, amazingly.
That's good. By the way, I forgot if we said this during the pre-show or the real show, but my saddest part of the Super Bowl is that Taylor Swift is not wearing bright red lipstick. She's wearing like
Oh.
I don't know how best to put it. It's like she's wearing like normal. She's wearing a color that goes with her skin tone. We'll say that. It's like, but that's not typically what you picture for Taylor.
No.
Um, anyway, so now that we're almost 2 hours into the show, remember when I just said we were 90 minutes in? But now that we're almost
And we've
two
talked
hours
about
in,
have we talked about anything in the time since?
no, we haven't. In fact, we barely ended the world class show we talked about. We didn't even really want to. I think we could have just stopped after the first half of that Von Erich promo, and nobody, including us, would have complained about it.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think anybody would have noticed.
but anywho, let's wrap things up. Tell people about the Oh My God cast and how you have a new favorite announcer.
Oh God. Yeah, so today's Tuesday. New Oh My God cast just dropped today where we will continue our coverage of NWA Bloodfest 1993 and you can hear us review some good like Paul Heyman promos and Terry Funk being wacky, and then there's this fucking guy called Matty in the House that exists just to irk me.
You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and then you have the facts of fucking life.
Hmm.
All right, so that's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you to everyone for listening. I hope you all enjoyed it for the 8 of you who listened, and we'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Bye.